Welcome to the Connected Spirit Podcast, a space where the mystical and the human experience merge, where we explore what it really means to walk a spirit-led path. I'm Courtney Dawson, an ethical medium and mentor, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt the presence of the spirit world. But my journey hasn't been simple. It's been one of self-discovery, healing from religious and emotional trauma, navigating fear, judgment, and the loneliness that comes with embracing something the world doesn't always understand. This podcast is here to take what was once considered woo and bring it into the real lived experience of being human. Because mediumship isn't just something we do, it's who we are. Here we dive into the conversations no one else is having, breaking down misconceptions, exploring the unseen, and normalizing the journey of deep connection. We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle of being a medium. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we'll go deep. And most importantly, we'll remember who we are, why we're here, and how spirit moves through us all. So if you've ever felt something more, if you've ever questioned the unseen, or if you're simply ready to embrace the fullness of your spiritual path, you're in the right place. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Connected Spirit Podcast. Today's guest is Veronica Jenkins, who is a spiritualist of 35 years, an evidential medium for over 3 decades, and the president of the West Bridgeford Spiritualist Church. She is also a spirit artist, the author of 4 books, and a former head teacher with 20 years in education. Beyond her professional roles, Veronica is a mom, wife, sister, and a friend who brings a deeply human touch to her work. Her path as both teacher and medium reflects her core belief that awakening to the spirit within allows us to consciously choose what we express in this world. Veronica, so good to have you here.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
I'm just so excited to connect with you. I come across you on Facebook. You have some incredible offerings. Your philosophy and approach to spiritualism, the spirit world, mediumship resonates on my heart at such a deep level. I'm wondering if you can maybe share like a little bit about your own path in mediumship and what kind of like really first opened that door for you.
Well, I can remember from being a baby, really, just questioning everything and questioning my position in the world, and whether it was partly because from baby in arms, I was taken to church, a Christian church, every Sunday by my parents, and therefore there's that thought of life and religion and all the rest of it. But I knew that path from very early on wasn't me. I would look up in the church that my parents still go to today. And there's a figure of God on his throne, and it just felt wrong that God wasn't that picture. I didn't know what it was at that point, but it certainly wasn't a elderly gentleman sat on a throne. All through my life, I've questions, I've explored that kind of deeper questions. What is life about? Who am I within that life? What is going on? you know and in my teens, I started saying to my mum, well, can you take me to a spiritualist church? I'd heard about them and I wanted to go. I felt attracted. She always said yes, I'll take you. Never did. So when I was 18, I went to uni. I moved to West Bridgeford in Nottingham, and I discovered that there was a spiritualist church in West Bridgeford. So I started to go, and from the very first time I walked through the door, it felt like home. People were talking my language, they were asking the questions that I'd asked. The belief system was so in line with where my thinking was developing that I thought, well, this is it. So I just kept going. And after a few years, it was a time that you had to be invited to a development circle. You couldn't ask to go. You were just told, no, you've got to wait until we think you're ready and you'll be asked.
Yeah.
I was eventually asked if I'd like to join a lady called Pat Hunt. She's got a DSNU, and she was actually trained Arthur Findlay by Gordon Higginson. So she had a really strong pedigree, and she's brilliant medium, and she moved on into doing a lot of trance work. She doesn't do a lot of work now. And I spent the next 2-3 years under her wing, going to her house every week, training. it was all the right questions. I think it was one of the first meetings that I went there with her and her group. She sat and said, well, what's God? Who is God? So straight away, it was straight in at that philosophical level, getting you to challenge your thinking and understanding about who you are and your connection. It was really interesting. The people in the group already on that path to mediumship all felt that their relationship with God was part of them, and they were part of God. That's an indivisible connection there. It's not that you are separate from God. It's not a father-son relationship. You are part of that whole. And that was where I was at, and it was just fascinating that these other people within the group were saying exactly the same. But there was a couple that weren't, saying that they felt separate from God. They didn't feel that they could have that level of relationship with God. But I just knew instinctively that that's where I was, and that was where I sat with it. So it was fascinating because I hadn't heard anybody else describe their relationship with God in the same way, because I've been brought up father son, and that was it. So it just went on from there. I obviously kept on going to Westbridge first, went on the committee. If you stay on long enough, you move up because people leave and they don't want the responsibility. So I did things like treasurer, secretary, vice president, booking secretary. Thankless job. Eventually I was asked whether I'd stand for president, so I was president there for a couple of years until I got married and moved to Birmingham. I joined Tamworth Spiritualist Church at that point, but my kids were starting to arrive, so I didn't have the time or the ability to commit to too much other than booking secretary and treasurer. You just do things, don't you?
It's a lot of work being on the committee. I was on the committee for 7 years, and it is a thankless job. It's beautiful to be able to serve the churches and to give back. I think your spiritual growth outside of the mediumship can benefit, right? But it is a lot of work. So those of you who are listening to Veronica, believe me, it is more than just sitting in a circle for an hour or two. There are multiple, countless hours a week throughout the year that are put in just to keep the church running, the doors open, lights on, and to offer those programs. And something that you mentioned, which I really resonated with when I walked into a spiritualist church, Veronica, was the philosophy around God and that divine source. I grew up in a Christian home too, and I thought, well, I don't believe in Christianity, so that means I can't have that connection with God. It was that internal belief system I had. Interestingly enough, I go to a spiritualist church and I feel more connected to God than I ever have in my life. Funny thing, hey?
Absolutely. We were talking beforehand, and I'll just bring that up because I think it's relevant. I said a lot there about my relationship with God not being a father-son, and yet the first principle of spiritualism is the fatherhood of God.
Yeah.
It's interesting that if you ask the majority of mediums, that's not the relationship they have with God. They feel that God is part of them and they are part of God. It's just interesting how things have changed within that. It recognizes where spiritualism has come from, because it came from a time where the Western world was very Christian, and in many ways the world has moved on from that now. I classify myself as a spiritualist, but I have perhaps different beliefs than others within spiritualism. But that is part of what it should be about, because everybody is on their own personal journey within this, and it's whatever feels right for you, because it's your journey. And if you are battling against it, it's no longer your journey. Or if you're copying somebody else's beliefs because you think that that's what's right, rather than because what you feel is right, it's no longer your journey. This human journey is that it's yours, nobody else's. It's yours.
I agree with you 100%. Was there a moment in your journey of serving the churches and sitting in the circles where you're like, this is something I'm no longer just exploring, but it's something you're actually meant to live. Through my own journey, it wasn't just something I did, it really became an embodiment and a lifestyle. How was that for you?
It was always there. And that was the interesting thing about it. It was a coming home because it was who I was, the way of being, the the recognition within spiritualism of everybody is equal, everybody has a value, and that spirit is within you. It's eternal, who I am and who I've been. There was never one single point.
Mm.
It's always been there. It's interesting because I didn't understand that other people didn't think that way. I actually studied to do special needs teaching, and it was the special needs schools that I was head teacher of. It wasn't until I went to college that I appreciated people have an ism against people with special needs.
Mm.
That never even crossed my mind. People would have an anti against it. And there's certain things that for all of us, we make an assumption because we think that way, that the world thinks that way. And it's always interesting when you come across that little nugget, whatever age you are, whether it's when you go to university or when you walk into a spiritualist church, whatever it is, that you realize actually what I think isn't the same as what everybody else thinks. And their perception of the world is different. But it's not to say it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge of it. Just because somebody else has a different opinion, different way of living their life, does not mean it's wrong. It's right for them. And it's right for you not to have the same as them. You're on different paths, but that's fine.
You've been a medium for over 30 years. What's kept you rooted in it for so long?
I suppose because it's just me. It's who I
Yeah.
am. It's my path, and I understand that from very early doors. That I knew walking into Arthur Findlay College for the first time, it felt home. It felt this is where I need to be at this point,
Yeah.
and I knew that my life would be along those lines, and it has been. So and it's saved my life in many ways. When things in other areas of life go wrong, it's always been spiritualism there for me that's held me up and kept me going.
It is a really healing religion, science, philosophy, a way of living. I love what you're sharing because I'm getting the little goosebumps because I go, oh my goodness, I know I'm not the only one out there. It really saved me in so many respects. And the reason why I asked that question is because as a minister, I've seen so many people come into the spiritualist churches because they've had a catalyst. Maybe that's grief, a hardship in their life, and they're seeking something beyond this physical world. They come in, get what they came for, and then they leave. But some stay for quite a while, and that's okay. I feel there's a higher calling for those that are staying, and that's not about hierarchy or they're better than anybody else, but the spirit has guided them to fulfill some sort of service work.
Service is the key to that. I in many ways that I was born with that. Both my parents were teachers. My dad was a head. My mum was a deputy for special school, and they're very Christian in their beliefs and way of
Hmm.
life, and they're very giving people, and their lives are about service. You learn that from family, don't you? And I suppose there's a genetic element in that as well, that life is about service because it enhances your life. By giving, you get back so much more than you give. And it's not a reason to give to get that back, because if you're doing it to get what comes back, it doesn't work like that. You're giving for a return. And
Mm.
that's not the point of it. People don't understand that a lot about karma. Karma is not about, well, I'm going to give you this, so you've got to give me that. They've got it totally wrong. Karma is you live and you give, and then life gives you
Mm.
back because you're living the right life. You're living your pathway as such. And I know that can be challenging for people because they will say, well, I've lived my life right. And all these awful things happen. Well, yeah, I know, and awful things have happened in my life too, in various different ways. It's how you then deal with that, and how you learn the lessons from those, and how you accept the experiences that those occasions have given to your spirit. Because ultimately, that's what this human journey is about. You've come from an eternal source. You created this existence of this human journey, and then you're going back there. And actually, what you're going back with is all of those experiences, all of those ideas, concepts, thoughts that you would only have within a human form. And the more challenging life is, the more that you've actually grabbed hold of that human experience. One thing I understood from spirit, and it makes sense, is that when we're in our physical body, we will experience physical pain. It's like childbirth. We experience it. But you try and sit there and reimagine that pain, and you just can't, because it's physical. But when pain is actually a vibration and emotional, you can relive that pain, you can relive joy in the same way. If it's physical joy, you can't experience that physical joy without being in that situation again. But when it's emotional joy, when it's love, because it's a vibration, it stays. Those are the things we take into spirit. We leave all the physical behind. In the same way, even on the earth plane, you can't remember those things that are physically based, but you can remember the emotional, and that's the vibration that we rise up and take.
Oh, it's amazing. You have a new book, Animals Awakening. This book follows your earlier one, Universal Spirit Awakening. What made you feel like this was the right next step in your writing journey?
Right. When I wrote the Awakening book, it was very much recognizing that actually there is a lot of people out there interested in spiritualism, but the mainstream of it seems to be about teaching people how to be medium. And that's not what spiritualism is about. Spiritualism is about you and your pathway in life. Mediumship can be part of that. But if you think that's the end all, you've missed the point. The point is about you and your awakening to yourself, your awakening to your relationship with God. It's that whole other magic of it. It's not the I can talk to the dead bit. You don't need to be a spiritualist to talk to the dead. You don't need to be a spiritualist to contact loved ones in spirit. People from cultures all over the world, way before spiritualism, were linking with spirit. Spiritualism's got nothing to do with mediumship in many ways. It's a proof of it. By contacting our loved ones in spirit, we are proving to people that our loved ones continue to live beyond the physical body, the physical timeline, etc. So the Awakening book came from, well, let's try and refocus here, try and help people who are starting off on their journey, or even not starting off on their journey and well down the mediumship route, to sort of pull them back and think, well, actually, hang on. You can be a much better medium if you understand yourself. Much better, because if you understand yourself, your own motivations, your own downfalls, your own anxieties, your own way of being, when you link with spirit, then you will understand a lot of the information that they're giving you. And the prime example I have of this is that when I used to do the platform work years ago, I'd occasionally just get nothing. I'd be in mid-flow with a contact, and then it was nothing. I was saying, what's happened? I'm not getting any information here. And I'd have to work all the way around it to get back to where there was a point where I was getting the information, and then start off again. And it wasn't until about 9 years ago, when I had a really bad period of depression and anxiety, and when you're in that really severe state, you feel nothing, absolutely nothing. Suddenly realized, all those times that I was standing on platform and it just went, was because spirit had suffered from anxiety and depression. So ever since then, whenever I get that on platform, I say, and they suffered from anxiety and depression. Confirmation, yes, they did. And straight away, the message continues because it's been given and accepted. The more you live in life and the more you understand what is happening in your life, whether it's because you're journaling, whether it's because you've done a shed load of shadow work, or you just naturally one of these people that pick things up as you go and question everything, then it makes you a better medium. It really does. So I thought with the Awakening book, it's about what is spirit anyway, looking at the history of the Holy Spirit, the history of God and people's relationship with God, and how can you actually start to experience that yourself, and giving exercises so people can start this awakening journey themselves. Not mediumship, although it leads into it and parallels it, but that awakening. Once I'd written that, it was, well, this is very plain in many ways. It's very, well, these are the exercises and all the rest of it. I just had this sense I needed something that would put it into practice. And that's where the totems came from. What is more symbolic, more embedded within cultures from thousands of years ago, from across the world, than animals? From our first being awake as human beings, we've had a relationship with animals. Those animals throughout religion have been looked at as gods, as companions, as helpers, as saviors, and as such, that they're an incredible tool to use. Now, it's not as though the book is saying that you have got a physical animal that is your totem. If you believe that, that's fine. But actually, it's all energy, isn't it? When we leave our physical body, we're just energy, in the same way as when animals pass. They've still got their spirits. They are still spirits, but they're not an animal. When we pass, we're not human anymore because we've lost the human body. And so the totem animals is recognizing that this vibration can be recognized because of our cultural understanding of different animals. If somebody said, what is a dolphin? People will straight away say they're about joy, friendliness, playfulness. If you say to anybody, what's a bear? They will say protectiveness. The big grizzly bear is going to keep you safe. Cats are really interesting, complex animals. People have an understanding of that independence, but at the same time wanting to be around a nest and all the rest of it. So there's already existing archetypes and understanding of a range of animals. So it was looking at each of those animals as an archetype, because it's often easier to envisage an animal than it is all the concepts underneath it. So you take that actual essence of it and say, right, you're that animal, you're the owl, you've got that wisdom. And so people will align with that. Once they've got that and using those animals, you can start working with them in different ways. And one of the things we do in the book is look at, well, what is each animal's symbolic meaning? And if you're doing journaling, what would be a good prompt using that animal? Or if you're doing shadow work, what focus would you use from that animal? I've added in an extra with the questions answered, because I'm very aware, like with tarot cards and pendulums and oracle cards, people use them because they've got a question they want to answer. So, if the cards aren't done yet, I've been hard working on them, but they're just not finished yet. But you can do it with the book, can't you? Just flick through the book, see where you land, and that's your animals. Just ended on stag. So if you had a question, become the leader with quiet confidence and strength. Isn't that lovely? Yeah,
Yeah.
and so if you had a question, then that would be your answer to that question, kind of thing. And there's affirmations as well with it, just getting you to sort of reassure yourself and reassure your mind, because your mind
Yeah.
listens to you. I read an interesting thing on Facebook where somebody was saying your mind doesn't understand that there's other people other than you. So even when you're talking about other people, your mind thinks it's talking about you. Powerful. If you're somebody that spends your life criticizing others, your
Yeah.
brain's thinking you're criticizing it. That's interesting to take on board, isn't it?
That'll make someone think. That's making me think. I go, wow. But then it goes
Yeah,
back to that personal responsibility for every thought, word, and action, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Because we are responsible, totally responsible for every action, every deed,
Yeah.
every word, and every thought, even because thoughts have power. Thoughts have power over your mind, but they send an energy out into the world. And if you're sending out unpleasant thoughts and fear and into the world, you're responsible for that. Whereas if you're creating peace, love, harmony, if you're just giving a smile to a stranger, then hey, isn't that wonderful? It makes you feel good because you're telling your brain that you're good
Is that reverse psychology?
every time.
In your book, you say that animals are mirrors for who we are and who we're becoming. Can you share an example of an animal that reflected something back to you in a really powerful way?
I think you can do that with most animals at different points in your life. That's the interesting thing. If you think of an occasion in your life,
I don't know what happened.
is it the
Let's
power on
see.
the earpods gone?
Speaker. Let's try that. You say hello?
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
Hello.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Let's go back. I'll re-ask the question. Okay. So, like in the book, you're talking about that animals are mirrors for who we are and who we're becoming. Do you have maybe an example of an animal that reflected something back to you in a really powerful way?
Well, through our lives, we can recognize different animals at different points of our lives. And I've just flicked through, and interestingly, it's given me the phoenix. Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
because as well as real animals, I've included mythological animals as well. And with the phoenix, it's the rebirther, it's the soul who rises again and again. It honors the ashes of what once was and carries the spark of sacred renewal through all things. And certainly, there was a period in my life when I've already mentioned the severe depression and anxiety that I had through that process. You know, spiritualism before that point in my life had taken a back seat in many ways, in that I was a head teacher with a lot of responsibilities. I've got two children, two stepchildren. I was running a home and all of the things. All of us have responsibilities. My world fell apart and I had to rebuild. And that phoenix is very much a representative of that period of my life, rebuilding. It was interesting when things eventually got sorted out with my situation. Within 3 months of that, we got locked down. Lockdown was when my spiritualist world went from this to like, what's happened? I found a new world.
Lockdown, COVID shifted the way we view community, one another, that oneness of all life. And it's really out of something so devastating, destructive on many different levels. It's actually brought an incredible amount of healing and unity too. I've seen from my own experience within the spiritualist community, for those listening, even if you're going through something dark and heavy right now, this isn't to unvalidate what you're experiencing. I hold space for you. I send love to you. But that old saying, this too shall pass, it is really
Absolutely.
true. Or the rainbow comes after the storm. Those are ageless quotes or cliches because they're so grounded in truth.
It's through connection with others we get through those periods of our lives.
Yeah.
We can be very tempted to isolate ourselves when we feel like that, because we don't feel worthy of anybody else in our lives. But it's through the connection with other people that we get through that. And it's my husband and my friends that were just lifelines. My children were lifelines. I've got to get used.
I love that for you, Veronica. You deserve that. Everybody deserves that. What a blessing that you had that. For someone new to this, what would be like the simplest way of them to begin working with a totem or spirit animals without feeling like overwhelmed and they have to have a big checklist and they got to go through steps 1 through 55, you know?
No, you don't have to go through any steps at all. If you're interested in spirit totems and don't know where to start, you can get the book, because that will talk you through it. Or you can go onto my website, find me a medium, and go to the animal-totems bit. There's a sort of random selector, and I believe that the universe will use that random selector, especially if you're going onto that page with the intention of, give me the spirit animal that I need at this time. Give me that totem that I need at this time. The metrics of the website will give you on that page your animal, and then you can look up more about it. You can ask, I've got this particular situation, I'm worried about it, can you help me? I have been working with a friend on a chatbot that will actually interact with you with the spirit animals, so you'll have an actual conversation with it. It's still in testing, and I need to set my website up properly around that, but that's something for the future as well.
That's a whole other conversation I'd love to talk about at another time. Spirituality, spirits, and AI. That's a really big topic right now. So curious about that. Veronica, is there an animal that's walking closely with you right now? And if there is, what's it teaching you?
Animals in spirit aren't animals, they're the essence of that. I have my guides and inspirers who walk every day with me, and different ones come in at different points to help me out. I've got a specific one that helps with my spirit art when I'm doing platform mediumship. When I'm doing philosophy, there are different entities that help me, different energies that help me. Whether they were incarnate as an animal at any point, I've no idea. I haven't asked them that question. They may have been human, they may have been animal. It doesn't matter to me, because they are spirit. At the end of the day, for animals, for me, it's a tool to help that awakening process. People understand animals, and getting a buy-in, an understanding buy-in from that concept of animals. I know that a lot of people will feel, well, it's a particular animal, and that's brilliant. That's exactly what they need at that point, because it embodies that. It's like the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
They're pictures, but actually the pictures contain the understanding within them, and they represent a whole conceptual base, not a word base or a paragraph base. It's conceptual, and that's what animals do with the totems. So
Powerful. It's such a good way of explaining it, because it's quite different than what I've heard other people reference when it comes to working with animals. This is what I love, the diversity and the different points of view and philosophy when it comes with working with different spirits, including animal energies. Veronica, can you tell listeners what you have up and coming, how they can get in contact with you?
right, well, I've got my online live psychic readings page on Facebook. On YouTube, it's find me a medium, and we have readings every day. We have healing every day at 6 o'clock UK time. We have chat shows like this. But if you're interested in having readings, they're all free. Just come on and comment for a chance of a reading. That's on every day. If you want to know what the schedule is, it's £1 a month to be a subscriber. And that's just to help for the StreamYard costs and things like that, you see. On top of that, I have my daily list of events that I have subscribers for, and that's £5 a month. You get a list to your email or to your Facebook page or Messenger of the events that are on the next day. So like, I think tomorrow there's about 50, 60 events that you can go to all through the day.
Wow.
From church services to open circles. And there's a lot of 12 o'clock UK time in the evening, because that's kind of your 7 o'clock at Eastern time. I've got all of the American and the Canadian times covered, 12, 1, 2, 3 UK time. There's all those events from your side of the world. And then you've got Australia in the morning and the UK in the morning. And then you've got UK and America in the evening. I think it's only about 4 till 8 o'clock in the morning that there's not usually anything on. And I think that's because that's, over the Pacific.
People are sleeping somewhere, but you are so busy. You've always got something going on. You can get all of Veronica's contact information, check out her upcoming events and her book through the show notes. Veronica, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your voice with our listeners. This has been an amazing conversation, and really what an honor to meet you.
Thank you, and you.
The Connected Spirit isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering of who we are, a remembering of our connection to spirit, and a remembering that we are never walking this path alone. Mediumship isn't just about speaking with spirits. It's about deepening the connection to our own spirit, to one another, and to the energy that moves through everything. So as you leave this space, ask yourself, what part of this conversation stirred something within you? What connection is spirit inviting you to strengthen? If this episode spoke to you, please share it, leave a review, and connect with me on Instagram at Medium Courtney Dawson, or visit my website at mediumcourtneydawson.com. Your presence in this community matters, because connection isn't just about what we seek, it's what we are. Until next time, trust your spirit, trust the unseen world, and trust that you are always, always connected.